right, Mugs, ready for this deep dive? We're heading over to a YouTube channel we both love, Mickytolife.
Oh, yeah, love him. He's great at tackling these complex topics and keeping it, informative but fun.
For sure. His newest video really got us thinking, all about Taiwan and China. It's such a complex relationship. A lot of people just kind of gloss over it,
Yeah, I mean, he even calls it the elephant in the room. Perfect way to put it.
Totally. So for anyone listening who maybe hasn't seen Mickey's stuff before, he often uses other YouTube videos as like a starting point for his discussions. He'll react to them, pull out some really interesting points.
Yeah, it's like chatting with like a really smart friend about this stuff.
Exactly. And this video, he jumps into some pretty intense stuff, like all those videos floating around about potential threats from China towards Taiwan.
Yeah, those are definitely worrying. You can see Micky kind of processing it all in real time,
Definitely. But before we even get to those, I think it's super important to get the historical context, which he lays out so well.
Oh, absolutely. It's like a crash course in 20th century Chinese history, the fall of the Qing dynasty, the Communist Party's rise, and of course, the whole Chinese Civil War.
And this is where it gets super fascinating for me. He talks about living in Taiwan back in the 90s when things were, well, really changing. Taiwan was still pushing that Republic of China name pretty hard.
Right, which honestly can be super confusing for anyone trying to understand the whole thing, especially since mainland China is the People's Republic of China. Easy to mix them up.
So true. This video actually answers a question I've had forever. Why does Taiwan compete in the Olympics as Chinese Taipei? Like, what's the story there?
Right. It's so weird. Micky gets into all the political back and forth, all that history that led to that compromise. He even talks about how Taiwan's competed under different names over the years.
Like Formosa. How cool is that name? Imagine Team Formosa at the Olympics. But seriously, it shows how complicated all of this is.
It does. And that Chinese Taipei name, it really highlights how much this history still impacts things today. It's a constant reminder of the tension between the two,
Totally. Speaking of tension, the video takes a bit of a turn when Micky reacts to footage of, well, a Chinese official making some really strong statements about reunification with Taiwan. Gets a little heated. He basically warns other countries against supporting Taiwan's independence.
It's clear Micky's uncomfortable with that kind of talk, especially the part about re-educating the Taiwanese people after reunification. He pushes back on that pretty hard.
Yeah, I have to say I'm with him on that one. Unification is a long-term goal, maybe, but forcing people to change their beliefs crosses a line for me.
Yeah, it is interesting, though. You can see him, really grappling with it, trying to understand where the official's coming from while also, defending Taiwan's right to, decide for themselves.
I think that's what makes Micky's content so good. It's not just one side of the argument. It's him acknowledging it's complicated and encouraging viewers to think critically.
It's subtle but important, not this is what you should believe. More like, here are the different ideas. What do you think?
Which is exactly what we're trying to do here on the deep dive. Not about just telling you what to think. It's sparking a conversation, encouraging our listeners to go deeper.
Exactly. And Micky does such a good job of highlighting those different views. One thing he said that really hit me was about how Taiwan's built this thriving democracy with a really high standard of living.
Oh, for sure. Easy to forget that amidst all the political stuff. Taiwan's a modern, vibrant place.
And their economy, booming. Especially in tech. They're like a global leader in semiconductor production,
Yeah, like a silicon powerhouse. It's wild to think how much of the world depends on Taiwan for these tiny chips that power, well, everything.
And that brings up a big question Micky asks. If Taiwan's doing so well on its own, why is China so set on taking control? What's the real motivation?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? No easy answer. But Micky does have some interesting thoughts. He talks about historical narratives, national pride.
Right. Like the Chinese government's been pushing this one China idea for decades. And Taiwan is central to that story. It's about more than just land. It's about national unity and destiny almost.
And that one China policy. Micky explains it so well in the video. He shows how it's become the foundation of China's foreign policy. And why it makes solving the Taiwan issue peacefully, well, super complicated.
It's basically the basis for China's entire stance on Taiwan. They see it as part of their territory, period. And they're willing to do whatever it takes to enforce that.
Which is why Micky's call for international support for Taiwan is so important. He's saying, hey, this isn't just some abstract political thing. It's about real people, their right to decide their own future.
And it's even more powerful because he ties it to this idea of universal values. Like, regardless of your politics, everyone should agree on things like opposing war or supporting human rights.
He's right. Those should go beyond politics. It makes you wonder, if those values were truly widespread, maybe conflicts like this wouldn't be so hard to solve.
It's almost like he's challenging us, to move beyond just picking sides and find some common ground.
Which honestly can feel overwhelming. But I appreciate that Micky doesn't avoid those tough conversations. Actually, he encourages them.
That's what makes him such a great content creator. He tackles the messy stuff, invites viewers to wrestle with it right alongside him.
And sometimes those conversations can get a little, well, let's just say spirited. He mentions running into people online who are so set in their ways, it's impossible to really talk.
Oh, we've all been there. The internet can be a breeding ground for echo chambers, right? Just talking past each other.
But even then, Micky emphasizes trying to understand where the other person's coming from, even if you disagree.
It's about listening with empathy, recognizing everyone has their own experiences, their own perspectives that shape how they see the world.
Exactly. Speaking of perspectives, it's interesting to think how Micky's own travels have influenced his views.
Immersing himself in all these different cultures and making amazing videos about it.
And at the end of this video, he actually asks if anyone's going to Taiwan to reach out. He's been wanting to go back and visit.
Wouldn't it be cool if he connected with some viewers, made a video about Taiwan from their perspective and his? That'd be awesome.
Right. Seeing Taiwan through the eyes of someone who's lived there and someone visiting for the first time. Fascinating.
And maybe those kinds of collaborations are exactly what we need to break down barriers, build understanding.
I love that idea. But for now, we're sending good vibes to Micky over in Cambodia. Stay safe. Keep making those insightful videos.
Absolutely. We'll be here waiting for his next deep dive into the world. And, it's like he's saying this isn't just some theoretical debate. It's about real people, right?
And their lives and their choices, yeah.
Exactly. And Micky really drives that home.
Yeah, for sure.
So to everyone listening, if you're interested in learning more about this complex issue, I highly recommend checking out Micky's video. It's a great starting point for further exploration and discussion.
Yeah, and don't forget to subscribe to his channel, Mickytolife. He's constantly putting out thought-provoking content that challenges us to see the world in new ways.
He really is one of the most insightful and engaging creators out there.
Well, folks, that's it for our deep dive into the fascinating and often challenging world of Taiwan and China.
We hope you enjoyed sipping and talking with us today.
And as always, keep those minds curious and those conversations flowing. We'll catch you next time on The Deep Dive.